Slow down, lay your burden down.
Hey, welcome to episode 11 of Divergent Paths with Dan Dunford, and I am Dan Dunford. Yay. So, this week, the Washington Square Winds. My first foray into having a chamber group on the podcast. All 5 members of the ensemble were able to meet with me and sit down, and we had a good time, really good time, a lot of laughing. It was a really fun episode. Washington Square Winds is a woodwind quintet, which is probably obvious, made up of 5 friends of mine, and wonderful musicians as well. Alyssa Plotkin, Karen Freitag, Casey Cronin, Allison Nicotera, and Phil Rashkin. I went to school with Phil, so I was able to work things out through him and then get to know everyone else. They're all freelancers in the city, and just like I said, great musicians. This is part of a run-up. They have a concert coming up this coming Sunday at Spectrum, which is becoming sort of a theme with these episodes I've been doing over the past few weeks. Of course, Spectrum is 121 Ludlow Street. Their concert will be at 3 p.m. It's a really interesting concert. Basically, they're performing the for a pavane, and then they commissioned, or there was 3 composers who wrote pieces inspired by that foray piece, which is stunningly beautiful. In addition to my full-length interview with the Washington Square Winds, I also did a short 10-minute snippet similar to the Chelsea Symphony episode a couple weeks ago, with Stephanie Ann Boyd, who is the composer of one of the pieces that the Washington Square Winds will be performing at the concert on Sunday. Her piece is entitled Galliard, and we talk about that a little bit. And so that'll be after the main Washington Square Winds interview. With the quintet, we cover a lot of great stuff. About starting a chamber group and keeping it running for a long, for more than a few months. Get into the music, about the recording process, and just all sorts of stuff. It's a really good one. And on the end of the episode today, more music. Hooray! This is going to be today's music, obviously from the Winds. It's off their album entitled They're Alive. Works exclusively by living composers. They recorded this in 2014. The selection that will be on here is the prelude and first movement from a pretty lengthy work entitled The People's Park by Rex Eisenberg. It'll be the prelude and the first movement, which is entitled Sapokanakan, which translated means tobacco field. I'm going to assume that I just butchered that name, but I did my best. I'm sorry if I offended anyone. But it's a beautiful piece, So first, Washington Square Winds. Second, 10 minutes with Stephanie Ann Boyd. And last, the selection from Rex Eisenberg's The People's Park, as performed by the Washington Square Winds. I'll make one little note. We get into it a little bit in the interview. The current bassoonist, Allison Nicotera, was not a part of the quintet when they recorded this, so the bassoonist that you'll hear on the recording is also a former Manus mate of mine, Anna Maria Kisven, wonderful bassoonist. So I hope you enjoy this episode. For me, if you want to hear me play some trombone music, well, not trombone music, but play some trombone in some different places, I'll be playing at the McKittrick Hotel, the Manderley Bar, which is in the McKittrick Hotel on West 27th Street, with David Allen Thornton on Thursday night, November 5th. And I'll be performing with Sharif Keys and the Groove, some sweet, sweet funk, on Friday, November 6th at Best Bar on West 40th Street. And of course, go see the Washington Square Winds on Sunday, November 8th at Spectrum at 3 p.m. I will be there. The quintet will be there, obviously. The composers will be there. It'll be great. Good times for everyone. And of course, like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the things that you should do with podcasts. Obviously listen as well. Anyway, yes, enjoy the episode. Bye.
Slow down.
Just gonna make noises until.
No.
Why not?
Why not? Because.
Can
I
we
don't
just
know.
do that for 60 minutes?
we're just gonna make noises for 60 minutes, and then it'll be the next great new music piece. and
We're
and
into new music.
We'll all be millionaires, or hundredaires. That's probably more realistic.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the first time I've had this many people. Cool. Not the first time I've had more than one, but this is a large group. So what we're going to do is get voice examples for each of you saying your name. So when someone's listening, it's like, that's just another female voice. They have something to latch on to.
Yeah.
Not that
Okay.
that all women sound the same. It's not the same.
No, it's okay. We do.
So I don't think anyone's going to mistake Phil's voice, but
Hi.
Phil, you crazy. All right, so left we have
Allison Nicotera, I play the bassoon.
Karen Freitag, I play the flute.
Alyssa Plotkin, I play the clarinet.
Casey Cronin, I play the French horn.
And I'm Phil Rashkin. I play the oboe.
great. So that's everyone. These 5 lovely people comprise the Washington Square Winds, which is, as you might guess, a woodwind quintet. Strangely enough. So, how you guys doing? Good.
Great.
Good?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really glad we got to do this. We've been circling around this for a couple months now, and you guys were actually one of the first people, because I've known Phil for a while. I knew Anna Maria, and I've known Casey for several years as well. I just was like, oh, well, I'll just talk to Phil and then message him, and people are busy. What's with that? I don't know.
I mean, we're happy to be here, Dan.
Oh,
of
no, no.
course.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's one of the things, since there are 5 people, you know,
Mhm.
that scheduling is one of the tricky things, certainly.
And
Oh,
we
no,
were
I had-
waiting for Allison to join us
Yeah.
before we...
Oh, I had no issues with it. I was just happy, I was happy that you guys were interested, But, so, what is the draw of playing in a woodwind quintet? Playing in it, and then from a listener's point of view, why would you want to listen to it? Just, nothing heavy. Just kind of like, why would you want to do it? Like, jump in whenever you want. You don't have to
It's
wait.
more of an intimate setting. The audience can really hear each instrument individually, and I don't know, we can connect more with the audience and each other. It's a lot more communication within the group.
Mhm.
There's no conductor.
Yeah, I love playing in a woodwind quintet as opposed to a larger ensemble like an orchestra, because with the other 4 people, we can talk, we can get more done, we can change things, go back, try it again, just interact more. And when I'm playing in an orchestra, I kind of just feel like I'm sitting there like a little soldier, part of an army, not, I don't really have my own voice.
Mhm.
And then it's a big plus when you love the people you play with, like we all do in the Washington Square Winds, because we just have a ton of fun.
Yeah.
One thing about a smaller ensemble is it's a little more nimble musically. You can wield it differently, and it doesn't take quite as much effort to pull things around in a different direction. Even in a live performance, you can shift from one thing to another pretty quickly, I guess. So I'm guessing you all kind of feel the same way as Karen about playing in a smaller group. Yes? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, but one of the things also though is that since we all play different instruments, all the wind instruments are so different that we get like kind of all these different rich colors out of the ensemble. Like with a wind quintet, one of the things we work on a lot is blend. I know, especially as an oboe player, I'm always like, blend, Phil, blend into the ensemble.
Well, I'm going to cut in for one second. The wind quintet originated as a tool to help orchestral musicians blend.
Interesting.
So,
I didn't even know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But one of the things we get out of that is all the different colors and characters that each instrument has, which, say, from like a string quartet is sort of different because they all sound very similar, and they have that blend naturally. So that's something that we can kind of do that's special.
So what's different about the Washington Square Winds? There's a lot of wind quintets. They litter the landscape. So I mean, what's different about you guys?
Well, I don't want to say that we're the best or anything, but
Well, you should.
we are different because we actually rehearse every single week for 2 hours. Maybe because we're crazy, or maybe because we're so dedicated to each other and the music and the composers that we work with. I know there's a lot of quintets that maybe they have a performance every once in a while and they get together like the week before and rehearse a lot. But we rehearse all year round, every week. And I think that it helps us a lot, and it helps us get to know each other and how we play. And yeah, I mean, I don't think we'd want it any other way.
It's another way that you guys are a little unique is a lot of times quintets, wind, brass, whatever, will be called from a specific either university or an symphony. You guys all have different backgrounds. You got Manis, got NYU, got MSM. You guys all come from different things, and you have jobs, and in addition to your freelance work, I've played with different people. Actually, Alyssa's the only one I've never played with. But
one day,
one of these days, yeah. But kind of talk about like the what's necessary to kind of keep a group together when it is a little different because you're not seeing each other every day at your work or at the university or in your orchestra. You're kind of like hiking in to, fortunately you can rehearse at Manis. So like, talk a little bit about the challenges of.
Okay, so I could answer that. It's very easy. It takes a lot of emails, and it takes me, Alyssa, being very anal and like, all right, let's do this, let's do that, let's schedule this, let's schedule that, and yeah, sorry.
It's really
sorry, guys.
dedicated musicians and people, and that's what we look for when we take someone in. Like, we make sure that they are dedicated to our mission and have the same passion as us.
Totally.
So, out of the people who were in the original configuration, now the Washington Square Winds originated in, I want to say 2009, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah,
2009.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And out of this current iteration, how many are the originals? Two. So Karen and Alyssa,
Yes.
you're the two of the founding members. Now, going off of what you just said about scheduling, like that means there's three other people here who, at some point or another, didn't know who you were, and became part later. So you two can kind of talk about the concept of finding like a good musician. In an audition, orchestra audition setting. You don't, it's a pretty well-known formula. They set it up. Everyone sends in their resumes, and they don't really have to do that much work. But in this kind of situation, it's a little different because you're dealing with personalities and the like. So, how do you guys approach how have you guys approached that, over the past 6 years as you've kept this going? I mean, 6 years, that's a pretty impressive
Yeah.
amount
Thank
of time
you. Thank you.
for a group of young musicians, to have a named, like a group that's named and has stayed, because they come and go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think word of mouth, we find out from other members who have been in the group who they would recommend, personality and musicianship, musician-wise. And we usually have them in for either a small audition or a trial period or a concert. We had Allison just play a concert with us. And then we go from there and kind of just talk about what we're all about and see if we're all on board.
It was very difficult to find Phil. Like,
Yes.
I think we saw maybe 5 or 6 oboe players before we found Phil. But, well, I think I could speak for everyone that when Phil played with us, we were like, okay, that's it.
Yep.
We found our oboe player.
I think we offered him.
I wasn't sure that was how that sentence was going to end.
Well,
we might as well.
Ooh, I'm okay.
Phil,
I think
don't
we
be
offered
silly.
him the spot, like right
We
after
offered
the-
immediately. I looked at Karen.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, can we tell him yes? Can we tell him yes?
You sound like a mother and a daughter, like meeting the boyfriend for the first time. So the boyfriend goes off to the bathroom, like, oh, is this guy? This guy?
Pretty much.
Actually, he did go to the bathroom.
Talk really quick.
That's what we
Yep.
did. He went to the bathroom, and I'm like,
Yep.
Karen, let's tell him yes.
I was actually really nervous about it. It was my last semester. I was in school, so things were really busy for me. And we showed up for the rehearsal to play some music. I remember we played one of our video game arrangements. And I remember specifically that one of the parts wasn't like it is in the video game.
Right.
It was like they made the rhythm different, and I kept playing it wrong, and I was so frustrated. I grew up playing video games, so I was like, I got this. I'm so ready. And then that happened, and I was like, oh shoot, I blow it. I don't know. I was really nervous, but
Phil,
I'm
you're
glad
too
it
hard
worked
on
out.
yourself.
I'm
You're
glad it worked out.
amazing.
I'm happy to be here. I have such a wonderful time in this group.
So now, of course, on the opposite end, you have Allison, who's been a member of the group for roughly
Almost 2 months.
yes, So on your end, obviously you knew most of these people already.
I actually only knew Phil and Casey.
Okay,
so the
that's
two non-original.
you knew half of these people already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
And so what was it like for you, just like coming into this this thing that's already been established?
That's an interesting question. I've never come into something that's quite so established. I've played, orchestra rehearsals with orchestras that are established, but not.
It's a
different.
little
It's
less
different.
personal.
Yeah.
You can show up and play and leave and not talk to
Definitely.
anyone.
Yeah, I've played with a lot of wind quintets. Like, you go to school and you have to play in a wind quintet. And so you learn the general pitfalls of a wind quintet and everything that goes along with it. And I came into rehearsal with you guys for the first time the morning of our concert. And it was just different than anything I'd ever played before. It's a refreshing experience to come into this group. And I don't know if I could say the same if I were to join another established group, but you're also warm and welcoming and helpful with figuring out the ropes, because you have these pieces that you've been working on for a long time, sometimes years. So it was nice to get your input on them right away. Like, okay, we do this here. We have this together here, and it was really helpful to get that right from the start.
Yeah. Great.
So on the other hand, we have the elephant in the room, and that's I don't like making jokes about this, but there's a brass player, and it's a thing.
I knew this was coming.
Well, I mean, I hate it when there's like children's concerts and the MC makes a joke like, "You're not supposed to be on the stage. You're not supposed to be on the stage." But when it comes down to it, it is a very different. It's a different approach to playing in this kind of a group. And I've played with you in brass quintets before, and I've heard you play with this group, not live, but still. So
One day.
Oh, one day. Well, I'll probably be at the Spectrum one. But what is it? What's different for you? Like, or what do you like about this setup as opposed to playing in a horn choir, or just with other brass players, really?
Yeah, the woodwind quintet forces me to be able to play with really subtle dynamics because, in brass ensembles, it's really easy to play loud, and it could otherwise be really easy to overpower all the other instruments just because the horn is so conical.
You wouldn't even have to try.
Yeah, but you do have to try very hard to blend with everyone, and especially the bassoon. I find in playing with woodwind quintets, it's great to be in close proximity to a bassoon because it's rather similar to the French horn tone. Yeah, and in terms of roles, it's often pretty similar to the bassoon. So it's kind of like bassoon 1 and bassoon 2. That's, my role.
The horn in a wind quintet affords the bassoon the opportunity to play something interesting.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh,
I'll
here you
take
go.
over
Take
those
those
notes.
long tones.
Yeah,
Oh, you thought you were done with offbeats? No.
offbeats for life. But also, I've been playing in woodwind quintets for so long that coming into a brass ensemble, exclusively a brass ensemble, causes me to have to adjust noticeably how I go about playing the horn, being, more powerful and assertive. But this is great. The wind quintets are more my personality. I'm more suited to blending, but I'm working on broadening that.
That's deep.
Anyway, I can't believe I'm still talking. What was the question?
You answered it. That's good. So now that we've kind of gotten some introductory stuff out of the way, let's and this is obviously a little more for Karen and Alyssa, but a lot of people are trying, and part of the point of this podcast is talking to and about people who are doing their own things, and just it's hard to make your way. I mean, it just is. There's not enough jobs. There's too many players. Most of them good. There's all of us have done our share of time doing stuff that I don't want to say is below. Saying it's below is not true, but stuff that doesn't really apply to what you spent all that money in school on, or would rather be doing, and that kind of a thing necessarily. So, like I said, a lot of people are trying to start things and keep them going, and a lot of times those things peter out after a few months or a year, and like I mentioned earlier, you guys have kept it going, which takes so much work, and just work, yeah. And so we'll just talk. How did the group start? I mean, I have a general idea of, but just go into why you started it and kind of what pushed you to take it in the artistic directions that you ended up taking it in, and then we can segue into what those artistic directions are.
Well, this is Alyssa. I went to college. I went to college for clarinet performance at Dickinson College, and then I came to Manhattan to go to NYU for my master's, but it was more of the business. It was performing arts management, and so I wasn't playing at all. So I went from performing and rehearsing 10 hours a day to doing nothing, just practicing on my own. And I really, really, I was having trouble with that, and I wanted to play more. So Karen was in one of my classes, and I kind of went up to her one day and hey, do you want to start a woodwind quintet with me?
Yeah,
And
and that's really the story of how we started. I mean, we put up posters in the library. We started to find other instrumentalists and
yeah,
and
and
a
when we
couple
didn't
emails back.
we both of us had just moved to Manhattan, so we didn't know anyone or
Right,
anything.
yeah.
Like, so. But
That's a hard thing to do when you don't have a contact list. It's
It
hard.
really
it's hard when you
was.
do.
Yeah.
Like to
Yeah.
get people to get together once a
Yeah.
week.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
it's funny to think now that we put up posters. Like, I can't.
I know.
Like, we would never do that now.
know.
But well, maybe.
You
I
do
don't
it
know.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just like,
Yeah, we
want to play in a quintet? Like a wooden
Oh,
It's just
those
like,
kind of posters,
those-
like
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
for.
Like literally.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
Or-
like, you wouldn't put up posters for
Oh,
your concerts?
No, we were like looking for
Oh,
yeah, and so
horn, bassoon.
that's
and-
crazy.
and so that's actually how we found our oboe player. It was
Yeah.
through a poster.
Yeah.
We found our French horn player
On Craigslist, right?
No.
No.
Through I was taking clarinet lessons. I was doing that, so I think my teacher recommended a French horn player, and then bassoon player. I think the NYU music department recommended someone, and so we met once a week. I can't say
We've
how good we
always
were.
met. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
We've always done once a week ever
for
since
2
we started.
hours. Yeah.
Um,
So we kind of slowly, like, I think it took us like almost a year to get our first gig. We had prepared like 4 pieces. It was so difficult, but then things just started slowly picking up. Like, we created a website. We had, got our Gmail email address.
So our group really evolved because the very
Yeah.
first year we were playing all the classical standards. We didn't become a strictly new music until
Oh, yeah,
the
that's
second year.
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
And so it took us a little bit of time to really find our place in the woodwind quintet and music world in general.
So there wasn't, when you started, was there, that's on wheels, was there necessarily, like, did you have, like, broad artistic goals other than just getting together and playing, or was it just like, we want to get
Not-
together and then we'll go from there?
Not our first year. Our 1st year was just like, our goal was to just get a lot of rep under our belt. So the Rika, the Donzi, Moritz, Hindemith. We never
Yeah,
did
we
the
never did the
Nielsen.
Nielsen, yeah.
The
What?
Ligety.
I know.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, he's dead, so we can't play him anymore. Just
no.
kidding. So the first year was just kind of like just trying to get gigs, widening our rep, just getting the name out there, getting professional, getting a press kit, things like that. It wasn't, like Karen said, until our second year that we started playing some new pieces. I think a composer reached out to us.
Was it Enrico?
It was Enrico Arcaro, amazing composer who's actually on our CD. Check our CD out. It's called They're Alive.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Okay, right. And Enrico, I guess, kind of started it. So thank you, Enrico. And after that, we started playing more new pieces, and that's when we came up with our original concert series entitled They're Live, No Dead Composers Allowed, where we would play works only by living composers.
Well, it was that concert series that, like, this was not too long after Phil joined. It was actually how I found out Phil was in the group. But like someone had posted that and the They're Alive thing, and that's what was my entry into realizing that there was the Washington Square Wind. That was what got me.
Awesome.
I think that's like a really, a really interesting way of. At least it's like something that grabs your attention. A lot of people do new music, but like, not new music can still mean a guy who's been dead for 45 years, which is frustrating to me. But anyway, please, so you have it was the second year that you kind of started with this whole idea of living composers, younger composers.
And every year we've had more composers write for us. I think each year it's increased, right?
Oh yeah,
So.
reaching out to us, asking if they could write for us. This is a bad and a good thing, but we've actually had to turn composers away just because we have so many, I mean, that kind of sounded stuck.
They're composers are in the same position that we are, but it's even more difficult because like they can't just go and do a wedding gig, write wedding music. It's a little more difficult. So a group that's established a predilection for this kind of music and wanting to do this and wanting composers to write for them, well, yeah, of course, everyone's gonna want to do it.
Well, also, I mean, we don't like half-ass, the stuff.
Right,
Too. We
yeah.
really put in the time, which is what this stuff needs anyway.
I guess that's important.
Yeah, I mean, we could just say yes to every composer and then not play it, but we really want to work with the composers and help them and give them the best performance of their piece possible and give them like good recordings of it, audio and video recordings. Like part of our mission is to help composers advance their careers, give them recordings, world premieres, things like that.
And we commission as well. And we commission works.
Mm-hmm.
About how many? How long have you been like really pushing that? Like, has it been 4 full years?
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. We picked up the momentum more and more every year, more and more. For instance, this spring it'll be They're Live 5.0. Every single piece we commissioned, and so every single piece will be a world premiere. In past years, we've had like maybe just one piece will be a world premiere, or like we commissioned just one piece. But this year we're going all out, and every piece will be new.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So do you have an idea of roughly how many composers you've worked with, or?
Yeah, I'd say at least 24 over 4 years, 5 years.
That's a lot of people.
We love composers. So what can we say?
So, I guess from more and more musicians have to market themselves as basically small corporations. It's a fucking pain in the ass. Let's be real. But your groups, the group has seemed to be fairly successful in being able to productively do that, and it's a thing that a lot of people just struggle with, and because music schools don't really teach it. I mean, sure, there's an entrepreneurship class at Manus, but because of the wide variety of people, if you make it a required class, there's a wide variety of people, and you have to boil it down to the lowest common denominator, and then who knows what you're going to get, So we have literally hundreds of musicians, thousands of musicians graduating every year who are just like, what do I do? And I keep coming back to this successfully continuing. But how do you guys approach how you market yourselves as because Washington Square Winds, while it is an artistic endeavor, it's also a business on that level. And how do you approach that? And how do you just do it? Let's whatever.
Yeah.
Just.
Well, I'm gonna say we are so lucky to have Alyssa Plotkin as our manager, and she really keeps us going. She does all of the business side, and
I'm blushing. You can't see it, but I'm blushing right now.
We're very lucky to have her because we're all so busy, and she's so busy, but she still does all of this extra work. She takes it home and does all the marketing and writes the grants and. It's huge. Yeah.
Grant writing.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's for another podcast.
Yeah, that's so confusing to my brain.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna pass it back over because we have someone not in the quintet but related to the quintet, Francis Torriaga, who has helped us a lot. He actually designed our logo, so he does our graphic design. He is the one that really helped create our image and our brand, so whenever you see our posters, they're kind of all the same, really edgy, creative, So he does that aspect of our marketing. For other like social media, I mean, we try to keep up on Facebook, Twitter. We haven't done Instagram yet. Maybe one day. We try to keep it relevant to everyone. Like, why should you attend this concert? Why would you want to attend this concert? As opposed to just like, come on this day at this time. We try to
incentivize it in some sort of way.
Yeah, you'll relate to it this way. It's different or special because of X, Y, or Z. So, just trying to really reach reach our audience and touch them, and
Sure, and like for our They're Alive, like we get the composers to actually go to the concert too. What a shocker!
We'll have a piece premiered, whatever.
Like, we stick around. We have a reception. People get to talk, and you get to hang out with the composers, which I think is kind of neat because they can be sort of elusive. It kind of goes along with what we're going. They're alive. Talk to them.
Yeah.
Also hire them.
Yeah.
Hire us. Hire them.
Yeah.
Hire us to play their music.
Yeah. But the composers are a great tool for marketing as well, because they kind of reach out to their contacts, and so we just all get to know each other, and a lot of our audience comes from the previous year's They're Alive concert, and it just keeps growing and growing each year.
So, other than music by living composers, what else? I mean, do you still do standard rep? Is it Casey's turn to talk?
I'm being pointed at. Well,
I mean, obviously, I've heard the Super Mario Brothers thing.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Love
yeah,
it.
we play in the subway systems with Music Under New York in decent weather.
Is Music Under New York like a thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's part of the MTA,
Yes.
Muni, Music Under New York.
Oh, you have to
Yeah.
get licenses and stuff.
Yeah, we
You
have
audition.
we have a banner, I think,
Yes,
too, right?
we have a banner.
You
Yeah.
guys auditioned how many years ago?
We had to apply, and then they call you back, and then you audition. It was in 2011 or 2012, I believe, and we auditioned in a Grand Central in front of all of New York, like all the commuters, everyone, judges, and then we were chosen to be one of the groups to, be part of the program.
Well, quick
Yeah,
thing
so-
about that, though. What do they do if you're not a part of that? They're going to fine you? I've never heard of that happening to anyone. I'm curious.
They can
It
tell you
can
to move.
happen. You can get asked to leave the subway platform or the mezzanine. You can be asked or demanded to leave, depending on how loud you are, pretty much. But getting back to the
Yes,
other
sorry.
repertoire,
Back to
we
the
were
rep
talking about the
thing.
repertoire. I mentioned Music Under New York specifically because we like to play, songs that people usually know. Songs that aren't actually necessarily woodwind repertoire. Sometimes we do, but things that people will hear and think, "Oh, I've heard that before," and it'll draw their attention
And their money.
and their money.
Yeah, we have Putting on the Ritz, The Entertainer, Fiddler on the Roof is a fun one.
Which entertainer? Like the Scott Joplin or the Billy Joel?
Scott Joplin.
Oh, that's a good
We should
idea.
do the
We
Billy
need that
Joel.
arranged.
and totally.
People know it, and it's all New York,
Yeah.
man.
That's a really good
I'm a big
idea.
fan of Billy Joel.
And now it's on a recording, so everybody knows that that's our next idea.
So
We'll
we
have
do-
to make that happen.
we play at libraries on Long Island, and a lot of the time they want programs that are similar to that. So we do stuff like that. But we have one coming up that we actually are doing our They're Alive program for, which we're super excited that they were interested in the concept and that we get to do this with them. So that's really neat.
Yeah, Huntington Library.
In Huntington, New York.
In Huntington, Long Island, New York, on October 25th. Yeah.
Cool.
We also play new music in the subways too.
That's true.
So So we play a mix, like the fun tunes, and we rope them in, and then we play some awesome new music, and they're like, whoa, I've never heard this before.
This is also fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, Subway, if nothing else, Subway's a good place to experiment with stuff in a slightly less high leverage situation, if you will.
Yeah, it's an extra rehearsal sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
It's fun, and there's the chance of making money. So there's that. When it comes to like your performance rep, a lot of new music. It's difficult to play, of course, but also difficult to it's not always as accessible to a listener or an untrained listener, or even for that matter a trained listener. Sometimes I listen to stuff by really great musicians and I'm like, I need someone to tell me why this is important. I know it's important, but please someone tell me why this is valid and I should care. Not that it's bad, just like I don't necessarily always get it. So when you're working with a composer, do you have an eye towards that kind of thing? How do you handle that idea? Because like I said, sometimes it's just prickly.
Well, we deal with that by at our concerts, and especially at their live. The composers are there and they're present, and so we ask them to speak about their pieces to the audience, and in that way we feel the audience can connect more with the piece and the composer. They can have some info in their head before we play it, so that when we play it they can kind of like latch on and appreciate it more. And if the composer can't come for some reason, one of the five of us will speak about the piece, or we'll have program notes. So just something to familiarize the audience a little bit more with the piece before we play it.
And
so that's one way.
I think too, the music that we commission and the music that is written for us is not like terribly inaccessible. It's everything that I've played so far, which is not your entire library because it's huge. But everything that I've had to play so far and is newly composed is beautiful. Like I definitely there's a learning curve and there's a lot of stuff to learn rhythmically and other notes, and it's not all tonal, but everything's beautiful.
I think, even if it's not traditional tonality, if you listen to more recent, like past, let's say 10 years, there has been, like, it seems in orchestra music and chamber music, it has been kind of a swing back towards things that audiences might want to listen to more, as something other than just this is high art that we're not supposed to understand, which I can accept. Yes?
Yeah, I agree with you.
They're whispering things that I can't hear. I don't like this. There is a microphone in front of you, remember?
Yeah, I remember we were playing, didn't Alex Weiser say this? We were playing his piece Wind at this Pavon concert we're doing at Spectrum in November. And he said that he just really likes major chords. He just likes learning major chords. They're just nice. I think that there is something to what you're saying about the pendulum kind of swinging back a bit. Things go in cycles.
Of course, there's outliers, and
of course,
and there's nothing wrong in either camp. But it's just something that I've kind of been a fan of. Hearing new music that I really enjoyed, kind of a thing.
I think the issue is when you can understand something, you can enjoy it more. Whereas if you don't understand something, you're just sitting there like, what's going on, checking your phone, whatever. So one of our goals is to help the audience understand what they're about to hear. And, we try to do that at least.
And I think with things that are less accessible, the extra work lands on the performer to make it connect, and that's a heavy thing, finding something like that.
Sure.
So, well, what else do you guys do? I mean, do you do community outreach and teaching programs? I think I might be misremembering something.
Well, we have in the past, we have a children's show, Peter and the Wolf, that we do at LIC Bar with Gus Rodriguez. He does puppets, and there's a narrator. We haven't done it in a while. We really need to do it again because it's awesome. And we were the quintet in residence for a year at the 3rd Street Music School.
That's what I'm remembering.
Yeah. Yeah, we would love to get into a school. It's actually one of our goals for this year or next to be, a resident or just, partner somehow with a school.
You all share a passion for music education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty important.
That's where our future audience is going to come from.
Yeah.
And your future competition too, though.
Yeah.
So think about it that way.
Yeah, I will be the future audience.
So 2 months ago, you guys were also featured on WQXR, the morning commute. It's a little clip, just kind of. It goes on. It airs several times throughout the day. You get to talk a little bit about your group, and you get to put some of your music on there. Did you play that live in their studio?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so you played live in the studio, and then they put the audio, the speaking parts over that. So how did that come about? No. Okay.
Did he hear of us through, I think, just the subway? I think he heard of us through Muni, Music Under New
Yeah, I
York.
think that's how that worked.
Because there's a website with all of the musicians who are part of it. And so that is a plus of being part of Music Under New York. It's not like, sure, anyone can go play in the subway and hopefully you won't get arrested. But when you're part of Music Under New York, you're on their website. And, you can get gigs from it, tons of opportunities. And so that's how Michael Schob from WKXR found us.
And I'm assuming that was really fun.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was really fun, yeah. Quite an
and
experience.
and what was the response from that? Did you get, was it great?
Yeah, it was really good. Just people. I showed up at an orchestra rehearsal the next day, and they were like, "Oh, I heard you on the radio." I was like,
Yeah.
You knew my name?
Yeah, I think we all had moments like that where some people would walk up to us and say, "Hey, I heard you on the radio." People that I didn't necessarily know previously.
I heard you warming up.
Yeah.
Like, you should tone it down. Great. One thing that comes along with going along for a while is you have your ups and you have your downs. You have them personally as musicians, and groups have the same sort of thing, I would imagine. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of those times when it wasn't looking so good for your group? I mean, like I said, you don't have to talk anything you don't want to talk about. We won't. And if there's something you say you don't want, I'll cut it out. That means but
Yeah.
it's true. Like we're all kind of in a place where we're just hustling to get the next
Right.
$200, $300, $400, $500, and there are times when it just doesn't happen. So I'd be interested in talking a little bit about that and how you kind of push through the other side.
I feel like we really haven't had that many instances. But
If not, I mean that's
whenever-
great. I mean,
But whenever we do, the thing that's great about us is that we all can communicate with each other. So if something does go wrong, there's a misunderstanding, someone gets pissed at someone else, whatever, we all just talk, we can try to talk it out. And, as opposed to if we didn't know each other as well, we just met at whatever, we would clash more perhaps, but we all want to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all try really hard and try to understand maybe what's going on, and we just talk.
Communication is probably one of the more important, one of the top
Definitely.
three most important things about working with other people.
I think one of the hardest parts is when we lose when a member leaves, because then we're kind of at a standstill until we get that member back and up and running. And I mean, when we were trying to find trying to find Phil, oboe player, it was months that we were kind of just at a standstill, and it was really rough for us because we couldn't take any more gigs.
There's only so much you can do in rehearsing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And when we were we didn't even get to rehearse that much because we were auditioning people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And then you have the transition period where we're catching everyone up on music, relearning how to play as a group again.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Luckily, we haven't had too much turnover.
Yeah.
And when we did, I mean, it's been pretty seamless.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very happy with the new.
I mean, Allison just comes in and
Yeah,
plays
I know,
a gig with us
seriously.
that day.
Yeah,
So,
that
I mean,
day.
we really can't ask for anything more than that. Like, it was incredible. So.
And wait, didn't you get married right around that same time as well? So like
Yeah.
you didn't have anything
we
going
couldn't
on?
have any rehearsals before because I was on either getting married or on my honeymoon or something like that.
I remember-
Why didn't
stressing
you-
out about getting married.
I remember emailing Allison. I'm like, can you rehearse like this day or this day? And she's like, actually, no, I'm getting married that day. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay.
God, rude.
She said no right then.
All right, so last year you released your album, or was it the year before?
Yeah, it was a year ago from September.
Right. So
Yeah.
okay. So last year you released your album, and it's over there, and I don't want to make too much noise grabbing it. So and it's called They're Alive. So talk a little bit about the process of putting it together and choosing which lucky composers were going to go on and preparing and going through with it, because I've talked to some people who are in the process, but and some older musicians who have done it a million times. But this was your guys' first recording, or first album rather. So I mean, don't all speak at once or anything?
Well,
It's that bad of a memory? No, I'm just kidding.
we used the studio at Octaven, and they were wonderful. They were just fantastic. We were so fortunate to get to work with them. They were just great. But, I mean, that was just the process, being in the studio. There was a lot that went on actually before I was even in the group that you guys could talk about in terms of getting ready for all of that.
Well, we had to raise the money.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, yeah, I guess that's part of
Yes.
it.
We had a Rocket Hub fundraiser, and
We made a really great promotional video of ourselves as
Wait, did you just say Rocket Hub?
yes,
Yes.
Rocket Hub. It's like
What?
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
I've assumed, but I've never heard of that specific one.
Well, we chose it because our friend and colleague Gus Rodriguez, who I mentioned earlier from LIC Bar, who does the puppets, he also is part of that. So that's why we
it's
used
just
it.
kind of natural, to use that. Okay.
Yeah, but we made this video. We went into Central Park and a very wooded area, and we dressed up some of our friends as zombies, and then us as the group ran away from the zombies. It was very promotional. They're
No, but
alive.
it was zombie composers.
It was zombie composers. That's right.
So it's like zombie Mozart and
Yeah.
zombie Beethoven. 'Cause they're-
Beethoven.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
You can probably still see
Exactly.
this
It's
video.
it's still on our YouTube. You can go on our YouTube and see it because
Yes,
we were
you
running
should.
away.
You should see it.
Or this is getting edited out.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
Sure isn't.
It
no
was
such
really-
luck.
Oh, yeah, I told you all those times I do edits. I don't do edits.
And he
were
was
wrong.
actually secretly recording us those 15 minutes before this started.
That's right.
No, but we were running away from the zombie composers, and then the living composers saved us.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's amazing. That's,
Naturally, he was dressed like a hipster. No, I'm just kidding. He wasn't. He wasn't.
I think he had a cape on, actually.
Yes, he did.
Definitely a cape.
well, I mean, if you're gonna rip off a television show, you might as well rip off the most popular one on TV.
We came first.
Actually, did yeah.
Well, the CD didn't come first.
No, that's true. Yeah, I guess.
Fair enough.
Are we talking about The Walking Dead? Are
Yes.
we allowed to say The Walking Dead? Okay, just so we're all on the same page.
Even if they heard this, they'd be like, that guy has no money. Why would we sue him? Like, we can sue him for $1 million and we'll never get any of it. You know? But no, yes, you can say The Walking Dead or any product. I have Lucky Strike cigarettes. What are they gonna do?
So yeah.
Sorry, all of this to continue into the album time.
We raised quite a few $1,000s, and so we didn't have to lay out any of our own money for the recording, editing. Then disc makers, they did the distribution and the manufacturing. We have 1,000 CDs. I have about like 600 in my closet right now if anyone wants some.
They're available to purchase through your website?
They're on our website. You can go to our website. It's on cdbaby.com also.
It's also on iTunes.
Yes.
It's on iTunes. It's
And
everywhere.
Spotify.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It is.
Because they're alive.
Yes.
No, but it's definitely one of our, probably the greatest accomplishments of our 6-year history. It's like our baby.
It was such a long project, such a big project. How many times were we in the studio?
4 or 5 times for several hours each.
And then after we recorded all the material, we met together once a day, it felt like, for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I went through all the takes and
Yes, exactly. that was it.
Literally, we saw each other every day.
Yeah,
for weeks.
I was living in Connecticut at the time when we were putting this together, so I was on the train. I think maybe like 5 times a week coming in.
90 minutes
It was
each
amazing.
way.
Yeah,
when we finished.
it was like
It was worth every
it.
second.
It really
Yes,
was. It was.
Yes, and the challenge with that was that there were 5 of us all listening to the same takes, but we all had different opinions on them because as much as you could say, I'm going to listen to the ensemble as a whole, you really only hear yourself every single time. So we all bitterly disagreed on some takes.
But I would like to point out that there were no fist fights or...
Okay, we were not that bitter. We were just, we were emphatic, I would say.
Strongly worded text messages.
No.
Passive aggressive.
It just shows our dedication to each other and the CD. I mean, it really was one of the biggest, the largest project we've ever been a part of.
Yeah, we did all end up agreeing on everything. I'll throw that out there.
So, with all of this music that you have, that you've accumulated and commissioned and all, so how did you end up picking what you wanted? I mean, because you also have to consider what showcases you best as a quintet, again, I would assume.
Yeah.
Well, we felt a very personal connection to Enrico Arcaro's piece. It was the very first piece that was written for us as a group, so that's definitely on there. And Monograph is Enrico's piece. And then we also commissioned a piece by
Specifically
Rex.
for the album?
No, just for our quintet,
Gotcha.
for the 5th anniversary of our quintet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's by Rex Eisenberg. It's called The People's Park, written for us, our namesake, Washington Square Park. And kind of just goes through the history of Washington Square Park. It's wonderful. How many movements is it?
It's a 5 movement
movements.
piece.
With
it's
interludes.
Incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that's on there. And the other 2?
We chose Sums of Parts by Matt Fry because we just really loved it.
It's a great piece, yeah.
And we loved working with Matt. And then kind of the same thing, A Better Collapse by Thomas Denevy. Well, we had a very long piece, The People's Park, and then we had 2 pieces that were about 6 minutes each, so we wanted to pick kind of a shorter piece, and so that's the 4th piece, A Better Collapse.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 3 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And each piece is so different from each other. A Better Collapse is very lyrical, choral. Sums Apart is very metronomic, rhythmic, staccato.
Electric, it says.
Electric. Yeah. Monograph is completely different from both of those pieces, and then
it rocks.
It literally it rocks. And The People's Park is I can't describe it. It's just completely different.
So you're really into this music, I would say.
Yes.
to say the least. Yes.
Yeah.
We're obsessed with it, and with composers in living composers in general.
So have you cast thoughts towards the second album yet? Or, when it comes to classical groups, the albums generally end up being spread out quite a bit more than with, say, Taylor Swift or Coldplay or whoever. Those a lot of all these albums come out every 2 or 3 years. Classical artists longer. Have you started
So I think
thinking about it?
personally, I need to recover. Once I do, then
It's been a year and a half. It's time to get going.
I mean, what we focus
Yeah.
on is our series, so they're
Of
live
course.
series, and so eventually maybe that'll become another album. But yeah, while we're recovering, we're just pushing the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, just commissioning, bringing more new works into the quintet repertoire.
Yeah.
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 So, this episode, this talk, will come out in advance of a concert you have coming up at Spectrum. God, I'm going to be there a lot over the next year and a half. But so.
Oh, yes, I see. There's a description of our
Oh, so Karen just reached over to a music stand that just had stuff on it and pulled a piece of paper, and apparently she's going to read from it.
It's a poem.
She's gonna freestyle rap now. This is the first time I'm on this podcast. I'm really excited.
Thank you. Maybe the next podcast.
Ah, okay.
No, our concert is at Spectrum on November 8th. It's at 3 o'clock. What day is November 8th?
Yeah, that's what I was-
Sunday.
Sunday.
It's a
It's
Sunday.
Sunday
Okay.
afternoon at 3 o'clock. And it's called, we titled this Pavane Inspirations. It's contemporary compositions inspired by Fauré's Pavane. So, yeah.
Love that piece.
It's
so
beautiful.
much.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
And
love
who
it?
really loved it was one of our composers, Brian Erickson.
Oh, of
So-
course, he works at Spectrum.
Right.
Yes, he
That
works at
nicely.
Spectrum. And so he was interested in kind of curating this concert based on inspirations from the Pavane. So taking he's writing a piece, or he wrote a piece. We're playing. It's all finished. He wrote it, and we also have Stephanie Ann Boyd. She also wrote a piece. And Alex Weiser. So 3 composers, and so we're starting with the Pavane. We're going through the 3 composers as playing their inspirations. Brian Erickson's piece is titled "And So I Did." Stephanie Ann Boyd's piece is titled "Galliard," and Alex Weiser's we're playing his piece called "Wind."
Wind.
Yes.
I met Stephanie on the way.
Yes.
On her way up. So, and we're gonna get together and do like a little thing about her piece and
That's
that stuff.
great,
So
yeah.
that'll all be this big thing to hopefully push some more people towards the concert. But I mean,
All right.
not that you need my help, but.
No, we could use all the help we can get. Don't worry.
More the merrier.
Yeah, and it's going to be good to hear about Stephanie's piece from Stephanie herself on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's, it's very interesting, and she has a lot of interesting ways of looking at music and composing music and appreciating music. So that's going to be a treat.
We
Yes.
actually just interviewed her ourselves. We do a Composer of the Month series, and she's our October Composer of the Month. And actually, she was the first one we ever did a video interview. Usually, it's just like written. So if you go on our website or our Facebook, you could watch her interview where she talks about herself and what got her started with composing, and then she speaks about her piece Galliard.
Or you could just keep listening to this one, and it will be there.
Yes.
Yes, that too.
No, you should definitely go watch.
But if
her
you
talk
want to
about it.
see her,
Yeah.
And you could join our newsletter as well and get all of the Composer of the Months every month.
yeah.
All right. Well, that
Yeah.
seems like a good place to segue into, promoting your social medias and the like.
Yes.
So your website is
WashingtonSquareWins.org.
.org. It's fancy.
Yeah. We're classy.
And so you're on Facebook.
We're on Twitter. WSWins5.
You're not on Instagram?
Not
Not
yet.
Who's gonna do it? You gotta be on the gram.
I do not have a smartphone yet, so I can't.
I think what you meant, you don't have a smartphone still.
Yes, I still do not have a smartphone, and thus
okay.
cannot help.
It's
that-
okay.
I will cut that out.
It's okay.
But I'm just joking. I'm not ragging on you. I'm just having some fun.
So anyway, we're on SoundCloud
Mhm.
and just / Washington Square Wins, and we also have a YouTube channel. So you can see our videos. You can see our zombie video that Karen was talking
You
about.
should definitely check that out.
And you said
Even-
we have a Facebook, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have a
Okay.
Facebook. You should like us.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I like you.
I
mean,
know
on,
you
on
do.
Facebook as well.
I know you do.
So in addition, like, you know, obviously you don't need that much publicity for composers, but you know, if a composer would want to contact you, how did they go about that? Just through your website?
Yeah, I mean, our email address is wswins5@gmail.com, but that's you can find all of our info on our website and on our Facebook.
Awesome. That seems very straightforward.
Yeah. Yes,
So-
we love when composers contact us. We love when anyone contacts us. So we love to talk.
We just love it when people talk to us. So yeah, Spectrum, November 8th. It's on 121 Ludlow Street, number 2.
Yep.
So you should show up to that. And then, but before then, listen to me talking to,
Stephanie and Boyd.
and then also to hear some Washington Square Wins music. So thank you guys. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, here we are. Stephanie Boyd,
Hi.
thank you for being here.
Thank
can
you
get
for
a little
having me.
closer.
Absolutely.
First composer that I've talked to so far.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's too bad. We're keeping you to 10 minutes. You know, once you prove yourself, you're allowed to talk longer.
Carte blanche.
But so you're one of several composers that has worked with the Washington Square Winds for this next concert that they're doing in November, and the idea is, well, we'll get to that in a second. So,
Okay.
yeah, how long have you been writing?
How long have I been writing? I've been creating pieces since I was 5.
Since you were 5?
Yeah, I started writing them down like in 8th grade. And so I've been writing pretty steadily since 8th grade.
That's
So it's like 10 years?
So you know you were creating pieces before you could notate anything.
Yeah,
You're
and
just
I would I would literally make up my own forms of notation. It wasn't very efficient, you know.
Well, I mean, you and Xenakis and Cage all making up your own forms of notation. It's great. Like, so just when you think about it, lump yourself in with those guys.
Thank you.
So, did you play?
I did play. I am a recent ex-violinist, so I played violin from age 8 until the end of undergrad,
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was where?
which was at Roosevelt University in Chicago.
Oh, I almost went there. And then, because my family's all from Chicago.
Oh, really?
My granddad's a Cook County judge, and there's a
No
lot-
way.
Yeah,
That's
Yep.
ridiculous.
My family's been dug in there since 20s or 30s. But
You escaped.
well, I've never lived there. I was in a military family, so we moved around a lot. I've never actually lived in Chicago, even though
Okay.
I've been there
Uh-huh.
countless times.
Well,
you
it's
know.
lovely, but
Yeah, it's
New York
it's
City is a
nice.
nice upgrade too.
I wouldn't say it's an upgrade. I just like living here.
Well, I
you know.
would, but okay.
Okay, fair enough. So how did you come to be involved with Western Square Winds?
So another composer who's on their November concert, Brian Erickson, he helped me curate my first New York City concert last February. And so I was on his concert series Vox Temporum at Spectrum, which was actually the concert hall, or one of the concert halls that Washington Square Winds will be performing at this season.
So this concert in November is kind of centered around this piece, the Foray Pavane, which is beautiful. I remembered when I discovered it, I was probably in, I don't know, I was in 10th grade maybe.
So
And I was
dreamy,
just-
right?
I was just like, what is this piece? It was actually like a concert band version.
Oh, that
of
makes
it,
sense. Yeah.
Which, I mean,
I'm sure
you
they're
can say what you want about concert band rap, but it works with like the more, not as many piercing sounds, if you will, the very like low key kind of warm sound of a concert band. It works very nicely. So all of the composers, and there's what, three composers who have written pieces responding to or inspired by this Foray piece, this short little Foray piece, and you're one of them.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the piece,
Sure.
and like what about it that grabbed you, or what you latched onto from it.
The Foray.
Yeah.
So, Foray. Now, I remember actually. This must have been my sophomore year of college, and we were looking at this piece in theory class because just to analyze, I think, the chords of it. And I remember looking at the music and being like, no, wait, I know this piece. And I'm pretty sure that it was in some like Looney Tunes cartoon that I had, fully internalized by then. So it was really, really great to be able to see just, the music and everything written out. And of course, when you analyze things, at least for me, the music or the magic of the music sort of fades away. So that was a slightly traumatic theory class experience.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I really adored the lush sounds of it, and it's so melodic. I mean, it's absolutely unabashedly melodic, and I really appreciate that. And so,
I mean, those main melodic lines, even though it was written in the late 19th century, feel almost late 19th century.
I think so.
Yeah. They feel almost like a popular tune from much later. It's almost like a romantic pop tune.
Yeah, and I mean, it is pretty formulaic.
Yeah, but
And that's okay if you get past that.
That doesn't matter. I mean, anyway, writing a good hook
Right.
is always a valuable skill, and it's a very hard one.
Right.
Anyway, sorry, more about you.
No, so the Foray. No, so and I like when I think of the Foray, I really think in terms of these sort of cooler colors, actually, which I guess, I don't know, I seem to find in a lot of French Impressionist music, but definitely in my own music, I also think very much in terms of color. And so for my piece, I wanted to do something very contrasting. And so I decided to write a galliard, which is a different type of piece that was, or a different type of dance that was danced in the time of Queen Elizabeth I. So there's this lovely, well, first off, the pavane and the galliard were paired with each other very often because the pavane was so slow and sort of luxurious, and the galliard is very much more energetic and vivacious, you know, and apparently Queen Elizabeth would wake up and dance like 7 galliards every morning to keep fit. So I went ahead and chose that as something to have a nice pair with the pavane.
That must have been really difficult with those giant frilled collars that they had to wear.
Right, I'm not sure. Well, maybe that was before she got fully robed.
Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe she was just like little Princess Elizabeth, like, having her own little dance parties, singing into her hairbrush and stuff.
Oh my gosh, that would have been probably like nice ivory hairbrush, right? You know, quality.
I mean, that's kind of a formal.
It's very formal.
That's kind of like a formal thing you're talking about.
Dance style and rhythm
styles.
and yeah.
How about like the what about the specific sounds of the ensemble kind of
Oh, the woodwind quintet?
Yeah, I mean
that's a good question. I think that at least the way that I used it in my piece, I use most of the instruments almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you really do get the amalgamation of all 5 voices in different ways, with different combinations of their ranges and different types of articulation. But definitely, in my music, I really like to hear like everybody, and maybe that's a little bit sort of a maximalist approach, but I really, really like that huge wash of color, and so you'll definitely hear that in my piece.
Cool. So, what else are you working on? What else do you have?
Oh my gosh,
coming to theaters near you?
I am working right now on the 50 State Sonata project, which is I'm writing a violin sonata that's being performed by one violinist in every state in the U.S. And this is a tribute to amazing violin pedagogue, the guy who brought the Suzuki method to America. I think in the 60s. His name was John Kendall, and I studied with him late in his life. He was my violin teacher at the end of high school. But I'm working with some amazing violinists in this project. I mean, these wonderful violinists who are heads of violin at the state universities, or young violinists at all the great conservatories, and I'm really blessed to do that. And then also there's a cello concerto that's getting premiered in Boston next spring. So
and who's doing that?
That is Alan Toda Ambaras who's performing that, and he's played a lot of my pieces. So actually he's literally in most of the recordings of my orchestral music from the past 2 years.
Well, great. So you're going to be at Spectrum for this concert, right?
I will be at Spectrum for this concert.
Name of your piece is just Galliard, or?
It's just Galliard.
Just Galliard.
Just like the Pavane is just the Pavane.
It's Pavane Opus 50.
Okay. Well, I stopped doing opus numbers a while ago. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, even though opus numbers are such a huge part of how we catalog things, nowadays when composers put opus numbers on their own music, it seems like such a
It is pretty much, which is why
oh, this is my opus number.
No, and in my diary from high school, you'll see I get up to opus 9, but then I mean you aren't supposed to do that unless you're published, right? And those that is supposed to be.
And most a lot of those things, and the same thing with Bach stuff, those catalog numbers weren't added by Bach. They were added by someone much later.
That's true, but thankfully we've had nice growth in technology since then. So we would hope, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So November 8th.
Yes. At Spectrum.
At Spectrum, 121 Ludlow Street, number 2. Washington Square Winds. Inspirations from Fourier's Pavane, featuring Stephanie Ann Boyd. And a couple other composers.
And many other composers.
And a couple other composers that I'm not talking to because I didn't meet them. But seriously, it's going to be a good show. Excited.
Hope
I'll
to
be
see
there.
You are? Good.
I think I'll be there.
Okay.
So, Stephanie, thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Ye Old Podcast.
Bye.
Thank you.